Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome to a fun little video I thought I would cover about what are the top decks in Expanded. You guys seem to absolutely love my coverage on Expanded format a couple weeks ago, so I thought as Paldea and Evloved is just being released, what exactly are the decks which are doing really well over there in sort of the Japan mini tournaments that are happening around there, and what you should keep out for. I know we right now have no real Expanded content or tournaments to look out for, but this can give you a little hindsight into exactly how Expanded format is evolving, and it definitely is. Evloved V is becoming one of the strongest archetypes right now. The amazing paralyzing bolt to get that item lock on the opponent, as well as hitting for weakness on Lugia, means they can get these big one-hit KOs with Regieleki VMAX and Electro Power on the Lugia V-Star, so they can really slow their gameplay out there. And it's a good counter for it. And item lock is incredibly powerful and a degenerate sort of archetype, and it's always performed very well in these sort of conditions. If we just look at some of the winning lists that have kind of gone around here, you can see here it's not playing any of the new sort of cards from Paldea and Evolved, but it's playing 1 Electro Generator and 4 copies of Max Elixir. This is when this deck becomes incredibly powerful to constantly get that out, that turn 1 Paralyzing Bolt. Not playing Electro Powers in this list, but just play Thunder Mountain, an incredible Prism Star Stadium card, which means your Lightning Pokemon attack for 1 less Lightning, meaning that the Vikavolt can attack for 1 colorless energy, which is insane if we play so many of these sort of energies out there, including Speed Lightning, constantly get those draw sort of factors in there. In this deck, really helps with its consistency. The rest of it, you play a few more disruptive cards like Marnie and Guzma, as well as Guzma and Hala and Fabian. But I do have a really cool thing where you can have Ace Specs in here. Cards which are very interesting. We can only play one of these in your deck. With Scramble Switch, means you can switch around energies and your active Pokemon, which I really like in this sort of deck, as well as the likes of Fighting Fury Belt to do even more extra damage and have 40 more HP. I really like this sort of list. I think it's definitely something which will be favored a bit more to me. But if you want to do even more damage and have more consistent supporters, you have this option here with your your star power in this game is going back to the Aerodactyl to stop down them playing any of the Lugia V-Star playing its star ability, but you have the Electro Power and Regieleki VMAX, you're constantly getting those big one-hit KOs, which is really, really powerful, where if you think about it, if you have 3 Regieleki VMAX out, plus you have the Vikavolt, you're doing 140 damage, which is guaranteed hitting for 280 damage to a Lugia V-Star with after weakness. Oh, sorry, we're including weakness. The rest of it here, we can see we have quite a few of these electric generators, so we can get out as quickly as possible, which is why I like this sort of deck so much. And very consistency with the supporters we're seeing, with having 3 copies of Guzma, 2 Ionas, and 4 researchers. I really like this sort of list, but if you want a bit more slower to approach, you have the Jirachi build. And if you remember back in the day, Jirachi was a very, very expensive card to get hold of because it's an amazing ability to get any trainer cards you want by looking at the top few cards of your deck. Really, really powerful and a range of different sort of energies out there. I really like to have this because it can utilize your other attackers like Miraidon as well as Raikou, and counter energy could be pretty, really powerful because that can be attached to, I believe, some of the V Pokemon as it was before its time. Very, very powerful sort of archetype, still playing the Electro Powers to try and get those big one-hit KOs and potential Pokemon, or the extra lower damage you might have to have. Focusing more on the tag team of supporters and having tag tool to get them is really, really impactful to this sort of format. This is a very interesting archetype, and it's purely on the basis why Vikavolt has done so well is because of Lugia V-Star. As I've covered before, as we looked at before, Lugia is incredibly powerful. The amazing ability of Special Charge to shuffle in any of your special energies and your Jessica pile into your deck, teaming out of double Dragon Energy. If you add that to your Garchomp and Giratina GX tag team, you can immediately board wipe the opponent. And it's even stronger with the item cards that have like Power Compressor and Ultra Ball and Quick Ball, constantly really good search for cards. You can even discard as many cards as possible to really help it sort of execute its game plan. And if we see here, it did in fact gain a few of these little cards in there with the likes of Iona, which has been played in this sort of deck. But you can see here, you're playing more of the aggressive sort of dragon sort of likes. Garchomp has the amazing sniping capability. And obviously you have the Giratina Garchomp tag team. So those big one-hit board wipes near the end of the game. Constantly attaching them, all your double dragons, is really, really key. And you can just recycle them again with Special Charge. This is why Lugia is absolutely dominating the expanded format. It can be set up very quickly as in turn 2 and potentially win by turn 3 or even potentially turn 4. Purely on the basis it becomes a lot more toxic, and with that board wipe and huge damage capability it has to offer, it's really, really powerful. And even has more setups or Pokemon to really help it execute its plan. Tapu Lele to get any of the supporters you have from your deck into it, as well as the likes of Dedenne GX and the likes of Squawkability to discard your hand and draw a TO6. But there is a really key card in here. I've talked all about that again earlier. There is in fact a Wally in here. Now this card did in fact get banned, but it's still okay in the standard format, where if you're going first in the turn of the game, you can even play it to evolve one of your Pokemons out there. This means you can get your Lugia out even if you go second, which is absolutely incredible. Though not if you're going first, because you can't play supporters, so definitely something to be keeping an eye out for. So Lugia is becoming even more evolving to try and overcome the Vagavolts by playing Wally, so you're trying to get out there if you go second. That turn to sort of pressure with Archeops and its ability. So what other decks are doing well? Well, Xian Pao is kind of the new Archie's partner. If you remember Archie's Toys, which did in fact win the World Championships in 2015, which is incredible to say that was 8 years ago, and I remember it very, very clearly. It's very, very powerful archetype. The Trembling Force to get guaranteed to get your energies, it's a bit more consistent to it. Yes, it's obviously weak to item lock, as we've just covered a load of more about it, but it doesn't get hit for weakness by it, and it can deal even more damage than what Paldea had to offer. Now, if we just look at some of the sort of archetypes that go around here, it's no longer going with the likes of Blastoise, but we're going with Baxcalibur. The higher HP and not having a weakness to lightning is very, very important here. And the rest of the Pokemon you're seeing out there are very similar to what we would see in a normal sort of build of Baxcalibur, which has been very, very popular over there in Standard, but it has some sort of key cards in here which really helps it out. Battle Compressor, as well as Trainer's Mail and Acrobite, kind of helping more of its consistency build to constantly get out the Pokemon as quickly as possible, and Streamline to try and get that turn 1 attack with your Pokemon. Constantly by utilizing the likes of the skate rope here to switch around so you can try and get out as many energies as possible. With and with the likes of Superior Energy Retrieval and Battle Compressor, you can discard that as quickly as possible to guarantee their Pokemon. Like what I said beforehand, you do play the Dedenne and Squawk ability, try and get that extra discard to draw into it, because you want to get out that Archie's Ace in the Hole, an amazing card which you can only play if it's the only card in your hand, and then you put a water Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench and then draw 5. Very much like the Mustard cards, which did well around there. And you have other cards like Marnie, Guzma, as well as Nessa to really help with withdrawing and disruptive capability. I love this sort of deck. I think it's really, really interesting. And it has the likes of Parallel City, which is a really interesting double-sided sort of stadium to either limit someone's bench to 3, or Water, Grass, and Fire Pokemon do, in fact, do 20 less damage. I really like this sort of list, and it still sort of evolves even if you look over here. Pokemon are very, very similar, but option going more with the trekking shoes than the likes of Acrobite. Kind of like, I always find with trekking shoes, it's very different to Acrobite. For Acrobite, you always see one more card because you get to see both of them, while trekking shoes, you only see one. So I potentially would have still go back to the Acrobite sort of look here, but very, very similar exactly to the list we just showcased around here, but does play the Ace Spec card and Dowsing Machine, which is basically like Junk Arm, to get one of the item cards from your discard pile into your hand after discarding 2, and really kind of potentially be your 5th likes of Superior Energy Retrieval, or your 5th, or potentially your 3rd Battle Compressor. I love this sort of deck. I think it's really fun to see that it is slowly evolving, to see this the likes of Baxcalibur with Xian Pao. I think it's incredible. I absolutely adore this style of deck building. We've seen it constantly evolve, but with all that being said, there are still some decks which are performing well, like Shadow Rider, which I covered before, which is more of a degenerate sort of kind of like making your opponent not really play many things, with Gengar Mimikyu as well as Trevenant Dusknoir, and it can even have the likes of Radiant Eternatus, which is a card which everyone really hyped about and didn't really go that far at all, but we're seeing it kind of play a bit more in this sort of archetype. I can get out your Shadow Riders potentially as quickly as turn 1, and even reuse them with Scoop Up Cyclone to guarantee as an Ace Spec card to put it back in any of your bench Pokemon into play, but into your hand, sorry. But I can see here, again, no real new cards really added to this sort of deck, but we could see like Super Rod, which we've seen in a while, and Adventure Pack, but it does play a high count of Psychic Energies purely because you want to draw in as much as possible to get out the big sort of attacks out with Shadow Rider VMAX. I thought I'd just cover this deck at the end. This was obviously one of the most hyped of archetypes in Expanded, slowly fading away a tiny bit to like with the likes of the increase of Xian Pao as well as Lugia and Vikavolt, but something to really talk about. So I thought I'd just do this little quick video, kind of outline some of the keys decks, which if you want to test Expanded or want to know a bit more what's happening out there, you're a bit more in the loop with it. If Expanded content does eventually come back, or if we see these big regionals, if they're having over in Japan or anywhere in the rest of the world, I will definitely be covering it, as you guys seem to absolutely love this sort of content. If you have, please make sure to like and subscribe down below, and Comment down below, what expanded deck have you liked in the past? Like for me, I really was a huge fan of the Lugia Archeops build, which would let no evolved Pokemon be able to evolve. Love that from way back in the day of 2016 to 2017. A really interesting sort of archetype and very, again, like with the Xian Pao and Vagabond, very degenerate in that sort of way. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye for now.